There's a moment in every great actor's life, quiet, invisible, but heavy, that never makes the headlines. It doesn't involve fanfare, no flashing lights or statue awards. Sometimes it's about the role you didn't take, or worse, the one you wanted so deeply but never got. And for Cillian Murphy, that moment came with The Odyssey. In a recent interview, quiet, casual, one that might have slipped through the cracks for most, Cillian Murphy admitted something the internet wasn't ready for: that he felt ROMO. It wasn't about jealousy or ego. It was about longing. Ghosts of creativity that haunt actors long after the cameras stop rolling. And the honesty with which Cillian opened up sparked waves across the industry. Not because a role was lost, but because it revealed something rare: that even the most respected, most beloved actors can still ache for stories they didn't get to tell. For over 2 decades, the cinematic dance between Cillian Murphy and Christopher Nolan has been one of the most quietly powerful creative partnerships in Hollywood. It began all the way back in Batman Begins, where Murphy auditioned for Batman himself only to be cast instead as the haunting Scarecrow. A role, by most accounts, he completely redefined. Then came Inception, Dunkirk, and eventually, Oppenheimer. Each time Nolan saw something in Murphy few others could. A kind of silence that spoke louder than dialogue. A face that could wear sorrow, ambition, rage, brilliance, all at once. When Oppenheimer was released in 2023, everything seemed perfect. A master director, a commanding lead. The story of a man who created the most powerful weapon in history, but couldn't escape the weight of what he'd done. Critics called it Murphy's career-defining performance, Nolan's masterstroke. But behind it was a different story unfolding. While Murphy was still doing the press rounds for Oppenheimer, answering questions about nuclear fission and emotional collapse and preparation methods, he nearly lost himself. Inward started to spread across Hollywood about Nolan's next project, a long-rumored epic. Something different than anything he'd made before. The Odyssey, an adaptation. Yes, but not the one you'd expect. This wasn't just Homer's tale of sea voyages and cyclopes. It was psychological, sparse, almost spiritual. A stripped-down retelling of a broken man trying to find his way home after unimaginable battles. A role, many thought, made for Murphy. And then, it was announced. Murphy, it turned out, wasn't in the film. Not in a cameo. Not in the leading role. Not even in the credits. The internet did what it always does. Some speculated it was scheduling. Others suggested Nolan was simply mixing things up. A few even wondered if Murphy declined it, choosing to step back and disappear into the quiet Irish coastlines of his private life. But the truth was far simpler and more heartbreaking. With a small laugh and eyes lowered to his lap, Murphy admits, "Yeah, to be honest, I had a bit of ROMO. I really wanted that one. I felt it, you know? That story, it felt like something I was born to do. But I suppose Chris saw something different for it. That's okay. That's film. That's art." There it was, just like that. No drama, no passive aggression. Just a gentle, heartbreaking truth. A man letting go of a role that, in another timeline, may have changed him all over again. For an actor like Murphy, whose career burned slowly, building not from blockbusters, but from stillness, control, the echoes of his Irish theater roots, this wasn't just about missing a paycheck. It was about instinct, about sorrow, about knowing a story was being told that you'd already written in your soul, only to watch someone else tell it. Imagine preparing to embody Odysseus, not the superhero version, but the shattered wanderer. A man who saw war not in victories, but in the faces of the dead. A father whose name felt foreign to his own child. A husband longing for someone he barely remembered. Cillian Murphy, who once said he acts to understand what cannot be spoken, seemed born to wear that tragedy. But fate chose another. And maybe that's the price of greatness. The very thing that makes Murphy so compelling, that soft, slow burn, that restraint, that ache may be the very thing that lets roles pass him by. There's nothing loud about him. No agents storming studios. No late-night calls demanding lead roles. Just a man who trusts the work and accepts its silence. Sometimes that means standing on the outside of something that feels like it was meant for you. I think every actor's spectacle, but because it always feels like he's lived it. Like part of him stayed behind in that character. And that's precisely why the Aditya story about the cost of war, the pull of memory, and the impossibility of truly returning home resonated so deeply for fans who hope to see Murphy in it. Because his presence alone carries the weight of return, of longing, of lives half-lived. But in the end, maybe that role wasn't meant to be his. Maybe that ache in his voice will find another home. Maybe there's a different Odyssey waiting. One not written on paper yet. Cillian once described acting as disappearing into your skin and finding someone else there. So maybe, just maybe, we haven't seen his Odyssey yet. Not Nolan's, not Homer's. Something entirely different. Something quieter, closer, more dangerous, because Murphy isn't chasing lights. He's listening for ghosts. Sometimes the most powerful stories aren't the ones we tell. They're the ones we never got the chance to.